What's going on, you guys? My name is Mark. I'm the owner of Max Vinyl Works. I'm the sole owner operator. I wanted to put this video together because I get a lot of questions from people about how to install their windshield banners. I sell a couple different varieties, obviously multiple different designs as well as custom stuff. But I sell about 5 to 10 of these a day, and you can imagine probably about one of those every day is coming at me with the same question. So I wanted to go ahead and walk through on my car about how to install one of these. We'll be doing a two-colored, multicolor design. I do sell the negative cutouts where there's actually one solid sheet of vinyl and whatever your design is cut out of that, so then you can see through your windshield. That I'll do another video for. There's a little bit differences, but ultimately it's the same process. As far as what you'll need for this, definitely going to need some isopropyl rubbing alcohol. Okay, not a necessity, but it does help to clean whatever's on your windshield, especially if you do detail your car and you have, ceramic coat or whatever waxes and stuff you put on there. This will get most of that off. Maybe not the ceramic coating, but most of that. This is not chemical, guys, but soapy water. Now when I say soapy water, I mean just a little bit of soap. So for this entire bottle of water, I maybe put a couple of drops in there, just enough so when you spray it on your hand, you can kind of feel that it's different than just water, but you don't want it super slippery. If it's super slippery, you spray this on and you'll see what I do. Nothing's gonna stick. You want it to give you a little bit of maneuverability, but you don't want it to be so slick that it won't adhere. So there is kind of a fine line to that. Blue painter's tape definitely helps. Again, not a necessity, but it does help. Sharp razor blade. This is probably key. I have these fancy ones, but any general X-Acto style knife, you can use. I got a couple different styles, but just to give you an idea, I mean, even a cheap one like this will work for you, but it is what it is. Obviously, every vehicle is going to be different, so I'm going to demonstrate on my car. This is an Audi, so there's a little bit differences to this car than others, but the biggest thing I want to go over with you guys is how to make sure your banner is going to fit before you even buy it. The biggest thing that you need to make sure is whatever your width of your windshield from your A pillars, that's your overall width. So for me, it's about 46, 47 inches. Doesn't need to be perfect. All right. Something else to take into account. A lot of vehicles nowadays have windshield, rain, and light sensors. If you do put a windshield banner on, most of the time, that's going to get covered up, which is kind of why I do my banners how I do them in multiple pieces, is so that if you choose to not cover that up, that is up to you and you can do that. So we'll go over that. I already have tint on my windshield, but some people don't. All right, so let's get into the install. Overall width, 46 inches. I cut my banners to be 60 inches wide and 10 inches tall. Depending on whatever banner you purchased, you might get a straight cut, or I arc some of them for like Porsches and some Audis if they request it. As you can see with the tint here, this is a straight cut piece of film and it kind of arches down the sides. So your center point from top to bottom is going to be smaller than here because of the curvature of the glass. So when you get this big piece of vinyl, people ask me, oh, well, I only want a 6-inch banner. That's fine. When you put this up here, this is how you're going to get it in a nice roll like this. When you put this up here, for instance, if you only want this much of your windshield to be covered, you can do that. Or if for whatever reason you want all of this covered, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. But if you don't oversize it with this curvature, as you can see, it's more here than in the center, you need that extra material. Not only that, for extra material on the sides helps with installation. Having an extra 10 inches over here to pull, or size, or sorry, not size, but maneuver it. It makes it a lot easier for you. All right. So step one for this, I have this trim that removes on my car. I like to remove this. You don't have to do this, but it does make for a cleaner install overall. For me, this just pops out, so it's super simple. And I'll give you guys a little closer up view here in a second. But I pop this out so that way I can cut along the edges of the glass and not have to worry about cutting my rubber windshield stripping. Take the camera and show you guys. So what you're going to be doing is when you place this, you're going to put your bender up here, and this edge here is where you're going to cut into. All right, so you're not cutting on the glass or even on rubber windshield stripping. That's what you want. So along the top, you can just kind of run your knife along the top and then the sides. If you don't have this piece that's removable, you can just score a nice little line on the inside. It doesn't need to be perfect. Matter of fact, you know, most of the time people nick their rubber weather stripping, so it's best just to keep it all the way off. All right, so you can see here there's a nice gap all the way down that I can just run my blade down. All right. So now that those are removed, we're going to go ahead and clean the top portion of the windshield. Microfiber is preferred, but you can use paper towel. The problem with paper towel is it will leave a lot of lint. We're going to clean up on the top of the paint too, just in case there's anything hanging out up there. We don't want it to pick up on the bottom of the vinyl and then move it. Again, the cleanest surface you can have is the best for how long your banner is going to adhere and stick. I get a lot of people who come back to me and say, oh, well, it failed and it came off in a month. Most of the time that's because they didn't put it on a clean surface, or they didn't squeegee it all the way and press it down, you know, or there's air bubbles in it. All of these reasons is why I put in the item descriptions a couple of tips and tricks. And I definitely recommend that somebody that's done this before either helps you or just installs it all together, because it's not simple. It's not easy. There is definitely a trick to it. All right. Again, you're going to get your banner in this nice little roll with a piece of tape on it. I'm going to cut the tape. And this is how you get it. I don't put any transfer tape on here because when you take this off, you can just lift it and lay it on the car. Transfer tape is going to make it a little bit more difficult to maneuver, and it's really not necessary because there's nothing cut onto it. It's just a solid piece. Okay. Use your windshield wipers if you need to. I'm going to spray down the top portion of my windshield, not a ton, just enough. And then I also do out here just to keep it from sticking out here while I work. Go ahead and peel this off. The outside couple inches you're not even going to use, you're going to end up trimming it off, so don't worry about, you know, keeping that little corner nice. It's not matter. And then as you get this lifted up, go ahead and spray a little bit of your soapy water solution on this. Again, not dousing it, but just enough. And lay it up here just for now. All right, you can press down that furthermost edge. And pull this away. As you pull it, spray it, but just a little bit. Pull some more. Now, this is the fun part. Again, make sure whatever windshield sensors you have, mine's somewhere about here. All right, you can kind of play with this back and forth. Do not pull on it because you will distort it, and that's the last thing you want. You don't want to distort it, you don't stretch it, just kind of lay it up there and then work it in however it wants to go. So let's see. I want to try to make it right above my. Okay, as you can see, the soapy water kind of allows us to just move it without having to pull or sticking it to itself. If you take too long, it will dry up, and then it will start adhering to itself, which is not what you want. So it's kind of a time-sensitive process. So we kind of go back and forth. Obviously, this would be easier with a second person. Let's see. I should have about 6 inches. Pull that down. If you need to, as you're doing this, if you feel like it's starting to stick, you can spray it a little bit. But again, notice I'm not pulling on anything, I'm just kind of laying it up here. Alright, so from here, we're going to measure and make sure it's straight across. Kind of where you start going back and forth, back and forth. Glass to here. 7 3/4. And make sure you're measuring in the same spot, otherwise it'll still be crooked. Stupid mistakes I've learned hard way from. Pretty close. We're a little bit high over here. Again, we're not pulling on it, we're just laying down. Okay. Once you get it where you want it, go ahead and spray the tops. This, you can spray a lot of it. You don't want to rip the vinyl when you're squeegeeing it. Okay. Next thing you're going to want to have is some sort of squeegee. You can use a credit card for this, however it will scratch the crap out of it. So if you have to, you can take a microfiber, for instance, single layer, if you need to cut a piece of it or whatever, and just lay this over the top of it and kind of bunch it up, and then you can use this. I have these because I wrap cars and other stuff, so just got a felt blade on the top, overlaid on it. Okay. For this part, again, we're not going to move it. Just going to kind of pull some of the wrinkles out, and we're going to start from the center and work out. Okay. The best thing to do is not push it up, but to push it out and down, because otherwise you will trap all that. So kind of squeegee this angle here down, and just let it ride where it wants to go. Using a little bit of pressure to get all that water out. And this is how you get a bubble-less installation. Top side, pick it up off of this, and squeegee it into your sides. Don't worry about the edges laying perfectly fine right now. They're not going to want to stick. But if you give it a little bit of time, it will. Make sure you push it all out a lot. Okay? There's always going to be water in there you didn't expect to be in there, so just push it out a lot. If you need to, sometimes you can spray your microfiber or whatever squeegee you're using down, that'll help. Again, top, and work your way down. If you push all this up, you're just going to push in this crack up here, and it's just going to keep falling back down and make your life a nightmare. Edge. soapy water will actually help you not scratch the vinyl. The beautiful thing about vinyl is it does kind of self-heal. So if you do get some fine scratches in it, it will actually heal in the sunlight, and most of them will dissipate. So it's not really anything to be too crazy about. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and trim the sides down just a little bit to make it easier to work with. And don't go crazy with the trimming. We're just getting rid of some of this material. If you over trim it, then game over. Something I forgot to mention earlier is definitely do this inside, indoors, on a not hot car. Okay, should be cool to the touch. You put this on a hot car, especially dry, all it's going to do is stick, and then you're going to rip it, and you will ruin this sheet of vinyl, and you'll be calling me up asking me for another one. Again, lift the edges, let this lay into that crease. Deal with that spot later. Same thing over here. Lay it into this crease. Whatever edge you have, holding it back and squeegeeing it in to lay it into that spot. Alright, and then we'll go ahead with our microfiber and wipe it off. Kind of clean our area up a little bit. Don't press hard, we're just getting rid of all this water laying around. Probably looks a little funky since I laid it higher than my tint, but probably going to be taking your tint off anyways because I don't like the double line look. Alright, so from here our banner is actually installed 90% of the way. And now here is an optional step. If you have a heat gun, grab a heat gun. If you don't have a heat gun, you can just use your girlfriend's blow dryer or your mom's if you live with your mom. It doesn't need to be a crazy amount of heat. This is overkill for this, but it's what I have because I do other stuff. And all we're gonna do is just lightly heat. We're not putting a lot of heat on it. We're just trying to get most of the water underneath of it dried up, okay? Don't hold it at one spot. You definitely don't want water laying on top of it. You don't want water laying on top of it because if there is, it'll heat up the water and it can actually burn the vinyl and boil it off there. So, just a little bit. All we're doing is just speeding up the process for us to cut. Like I said, that's all you need, not a lot. Just a little bit. Press it down again. Still might be some water in there or so, squeeze that out. and press it in the edges now that we kind of have some of the air out, or water out rather. Something I want to kind of remind you guys of is I'm very OCD and I like my stuff to be perfect. And I've definitely learned with doing vinyl work. I actually heard this quote from somebody I watch online, CK Raps. He said something about how nothing's perfect, not even NASA. So if you're expecting perfection, you're not going to get it. Even your car's paint, it's not perfect. All right. So sometimes you will get some bubbles in there. There's nothing you can do about it. There's other things such as where the adhesive on the vinyl itself from the manufacturer has actually got some ripples in it, and it is what it is, all right? And there's not always going to be a perfect vinyl way, okay? From this point, we're going to go ahead and start the trimming process. So, nice sharp blade, definitely not one that's got rust all over it. I'll go ahead and pop this off, pop a new one. Nice and humid down here in Florida, and it's been raining every single day. I've been wanting to do this video for the last 2 weeks, and it's literally rained every day. Alright, so kind of get your finger up here, work that crease so you can kind of see where it's at, especially out here on the edges. Now again, depending on your vehicle, your edge might have trim that covers it up, so it doesn't need to be perfect. If you do have it exposed, I would suggest just cutting off of your weather stripping about, 1/16 of an inch. It does not need to be much, all right? So up along this, up here, I should show you guys. Again, we're gonna run our finger right here, and you can kind of see on the back side of the glass here is exactly where we're gonna run our knife blade. Not into the paint, we're just gonna rest it up against here real nice like, and it'll actually guide us a nice perfect cut. Make sure this is good still. Hold a little bit of tension on the back side, a little bit of blade, we'll stick the whole thing out. And start it off of the edge. Into the edge. I'm literally just floating my knife on the edge of the glass. It won't hurt the glass, not putting pressure on it. Again, the edges don't need to be perfect. Not going to be perfect. If you guys are old enough, you'll know that even NASA blew up a space shuttle, as sad as it is. Nothing is perfect. This is where it gets a little tricky. Work with your own hand. Nice and light. We're not pressing hard. We're just guiding. And if you use the windshield as a guide, you don't have to worry about starting and stopping. Nice clean installation. Wipe up all this excess water. If you have any small tabs, trim those off, make one little one. And then we're going to re-squeegee this again. Everything up. See, there's still a little bit of water in there. The vinyl's porous, so some of it will evaporate out. Kind of like when you got your windows tinted, they tell you don't touch your windows for 3 days, don't roll them down. Some bubbles will go away. It's kind of the same thing. The worst thing you want to do on all this is press hard and drag down when it's lifted up. This is where you're going to take the edges and get them pressed down really good now. Now we have all the other water out. Alright, now again, one more time just for safe measures. Again, you don't have to do this, but for the sake of speeding things up for the video and moving on to the next point, so, if all you ordered is a solid banner, this is going to be the end of your process. You can go ahead and reinstall whatever trim you have, wipe everything down the rest of the way, and then voila. Alright, just to give you guys an idea on my car, it should be 6 inches. That's where I measured it first, and it is in fact 6 inches. On the outsides, just to kind of give you an idea of what I was talking about, there's 7 3/4 inches of material. So with the curvature of the glass, that's why I cut such a big piece. Okay, so you'll need an extra 1 to 2 inches sometimes, and some vehicles have even more curvature than mine does. Okay, so next portion for this is for a colored text. So if you ordered a colored text banner, you were going to get 2 pieces: your solid piece of vinyl, which I just put on, and then you get a separate decal that you can lay over that. The reason I do this and I don't lay them and put them on and ship you one piece is because of what we did here. I have this light sensor that I don't want to cover. Well, if I give you a big piece and you shift it up, well then if this is already on that piece, this might be up here, for instance. All right, I want you guys to be able to put it wherever you want. Okay, so for my car, I'm going to leave about 1 inch on the bottom and 1 inch on the top, and that's going to be that. Okay, so let me show you a technique to this. This is where the painter's tape comes into play. Oh, before I go there, I actually have marked the center point of this, which helps immensely. And I just put a couple little black Sharpie marks on there so I know where center is before I get it on the car. Get you a couple pieces of small painter's tape. Put one on each end, preferably not covering the decal. And we're going to lay our decal up there. So again, rough eyeball, that's about center. I want it about 1 inch up. So we're gonna put that piece there. Go to the other side, now the other one. All right, so using your tape measure now, we know it's pretty close to being centered. Pretty spot on actually. So I'm gonna move it down to where it's 1 inch off of the text. Okay, not the bottom of this, off the bottom of the text. So we need to come down a lot. And then pay attention to the outsides too, because you don't want it to look off on the outsides, okay? So even though it's 1 inch from the bottom here, where am I? 1.5 inches now, out here it is 1 inch. So that actually might be where I end up putting it. This is why I give you guys 2 pieces, so it's custom to your car as best as you can. You wouldn't be able to do this if I gave you a whole other piece, or sorry, rather a 1-piece setup. Step back, take a look. The more important thing is, does it look good to the eye? The measurements are one thing. If it doesn't look good on the car, or whatever you're putting it on, it doesn't matter anymore. So for you guys, I got 1.25 inches on the bottom, and 1.25 inches at the top. Okay, over here from the bottom to the bottom letter is 1 inch. And it should be the same over here. A little high. Again, we're talking minute differences that most people would never even notice. Okay, and that's how our banner is going to go up there. That's where we want it. So we're going to install this using what's called the hinge method. We're going to take one big piece of blue painter tape and run it across, not in the center, but kind of off the side. Make sure it's covering a large area. Okay. There's a little tab to pull on, press it down. It's not going to hurt anything. And this is going to be installed using a dry method, okay? So we're going to go ahead and peel this back. Before you do that, I highly recommend pressing this down from whenever the time I cut it to ship time, from it being curled up or sitting on your desk before you get to it. Just press it back down real good and it'll help adhere it to the transfer paper so you don't have any problems with that. Okay. And then we're going to start unpeeling from one side. And over like so. Lots of back and forth. This is where having a second person is nice, but again, not mandatory. Take this piece of tape you have and tape it somewhere and start peeling your backer off. Pull the backer at a sharp angle off of the decal. Don't pull the front off. This works a lot better in my opinion. Nice and slow, don't rip anything fast, keep it kind of squared up. If you have issues where it doesn't want to come off, just rock it back and forth. And we're going to peel it all the way back to where our tape line is. Being careful not to let this other stuff touch anything. That's why I have that tape there. And then with whatever you have, scissors is fine, you can cut this piece off here. Okay. Make sure when you cut, you don't gouge this. Okay. We gotta be careful. Let's do this. Let's reuse this. Lay it over. 2 people. Definitely helps. Pull this off now. Holding this where it's square, don't wrinkle it up or down, hold it square. Start to lay. Guide it, don't maneuver it, let it go where it wants, keeping this flat. I'm not using a lot of pressure, I'm literally just laying it straight. Okay. Now go over it, working the centers out. This tape you want. Remove your hinge tape. Now that we have this portion down, it's holding itself in place. Straight, lay it, let it go where it wants to go, and squeegee. Alright, now you can remove it. No weight to this portion, take it off right away. Sometimes you will get stuff in two pieces. You didn't do anything wrong. That's how I make my products. Now, once you get everything laid down, don't go wash your car right away. Don't go wiping it hard, okay? Don't press hard on it. You can kind of put something over top of it. I honestly recommend just your soapy water solution, a little bit on your rag, and then lightly go over everything just to clean it up. You don't want to accidentally catch a corner or something and peel it up. Just getting all your handprints off of it. Just so you guys know, I used my matte black and matte white vinyl for this. I personally don't like gloss black vinyl on the windshield. It doesn't stand out at all, it just looks like the glass. This kind of gives it a sense of contrast to it. And you know, makes it pop. And once you get your trim back on, it's laid underneath of here. You can't see any of that. It's done, gone, out of sight, out of mind. Just a little close-up look. Shaky hands. You see a top edge. Nice clean cuts. And in here, this is all going to be hidden. Nothing to see. So that's how you install your banners. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. Also, if for whatever reason any of my dimensions I have listed won't fit for your vehicle, send me a message. Tell me how wide your width is and I can adjust it. I'll adjust anything. I do custom stuff as it is. If you don't see something on my Etsy store or on my Facebook or Instagram, I will do it for you. Again, just send us a message and I'll get working on it for you. All right. Hope this helps. If you guys have any more questions, feel free. Again, I'll do another video for the banner with the cutout, which is essentially the same, but there's a few little tweaks to it that make it lay down easier. All right. Have a good one.